Vi, like many other Arcane characters, has changed her outfit and overall look many times before. But I feel like it's her final visual side that reveals the most about her, and speaks volumes of just how far she got over the course of Arcane, how her arc ended. While in Season 1 as a child she was a typical Zoanite, wearing worn-out clothes, in second part of the season she assumed her most known and most original red-oriented look that surely was designed that way to symbolize her violent and rebellious nature. Jacket she stole from some Zoan thugs, as well as red-dyed hair told us just how edgy she was at this stage of her Arcane act. Now in Season 2, situation drastically complicated for her. To begin with, she was asked by Caitlyn to join the Enforcers, a request that did not quite come as a surprise given their League of Legends default situation, but still was surely difficult enough to Arcane version of Vi at the moment. On one hand, Jinx took it a step too far by attacking the council, and defending her was no longer an option. On the other hand, joining an organization directly responsible for killing her parents felt like a betrayal towards both them and their sisterhood. She did look good though wearing that badge. Then of course we have her most iconic Season 2 look, which ended up being a skin in League of Legends. In other words, her emo phase, because Caitlyn broke up with her and she just didn't handle it well. Edgy, rocky, dark, her hair dyed to black, 2 wolves on her back. Probably her most characteristic vibe, but one that does not quite suit her to begin with, as she is and always has been more than a facade she has been creating to protect her true self. It's interesting that even then she kept the badge she received from Caitlyn, not fully leaving her Piltover default situation. When she shook out of it and rejoined Caitlyn while trying to protect Warwick as well as go against Ampesa, she was wounded by a Noxian soldier and saved by none other than Kate. That is when she assumed her final look, which I initially assumed that was there for just a little while, because she was recovering from her wound, but it turned out to be her final visual. Before that, we briefly saw her wearing her own version of a uniform, one that combined both Enforcers and Zoanite elements that fit nicely both her and her arc situation, as well as felt loosely inspired by her Season 1 Act 1 look. But eventually it was her beige shirt type of a thing that was there to stay, and clearly for a reason, because up until that moment Vi's obligatory elements were of course her gloves, as well as bandages she used to protect her fists from her punches. She was rather covered, and her clothes spoke about her personality and current situation. The way she looks by the end of the season though, she was only able to assume that vibe when she was no longer in a fight Caitlyn mentioned. Sure, she of course will always be an enforcer, maybe better said a warden, working with Caitlyn, always a fighter in many aspects, but she's no longer looking for Jinx, trying to get to Jinx, protecting Jinx. She's no longer fighting the fight between Piltover and Zon. She found her own version of peace, despite all the horrible circumstances that happened to her. She is now fully exposed. She no longer has to wear the bandages on her fists. Clearly Zon-inspired tattoos on her back are partially visual, underlining her heritage, not denying it. More than that, during the final fight, she was crushed. Wound crossed directly her name tattooed on her cheek and left a mark on what used to say Vi, suggesting she is now partially just someone else. Of course, her final look is also supposed to accent the fact she is now living with Caitlyn. In the final scene, she has no shoes on, even though she does own a banger pair of red boots. She is the version of herself closest to her true nature. She is now more than her facade that used to send a signal that she's dangerous. Next to Caitlyn, who in the final act accepted all parts of her, including Jinx, which will always be inside of Vi. She became her true, exposed self, one that has always been vulnerable, despite appearances. But at this point, she's no longer afraid to show it.